Adelaide Norton had spent 3 months planning the Delaney Vineyard wedding, and she still had no idea the best man was worth more than the entire estate they were standing on. She stood in the middle of rolling grapevines under the California sun, her tablet clutched against her chest as she reviewed the seating chart for what felt like the 100th time. The bride, Isabelle Delaney, had changed her mind about the reception layout twice this week alone, and Adelaide was determined to make this wedding absolutely perfect, despite the chaos. This was her biggest event yet, and if she pulled it off, her wedding planning business would finally have the reputation she had been working toward for the past 4 years. "Adelaide, the florist is here with samples," called her assistant Jamie from near the stone pathway that led to the main ceremony site. Adelaide hurried over, her sundress swaying around her knees. The August heat was intense, but the vineyard was breathtaking. Rows upon rows of green vines stretched across the hillside, and the rustic barn that had been converted into an event space stood proudly in the distance. She had fallen in love with this venue the moment Isabelle had brought her here for the initial consultation. The florist, an elderly woman named Margaret, opened several boxes to reveal stunning arrangements of white roses, lavender, and eucalyptus. Adelaide felt her breath catch. They were exactly what she had envisioned. "These are perfect," she said, carefully touching one of the delicate petals. "Can you have everything delivered by Friday morning? The wedding is Saturday at 4. "Of course, dear. I have been doing this for 30 years. I will not let you down." Adelaide smiled gratefully and returned to her checklist. The caterers were confirmed. The string quartet had been booked. The photographer knew exactly where to set up, and the ceremony arch was being constructed tomorrow. Everything was falling into place beautifully. What she did not know was that Tristan Dane, the best man and Isabelle's older brother, had been watching her work from a distance for the past 2 weeks. Every time he visited the vineyard to check on wedding preparations or spend time with his sister, he found himself drawn to the wedding planner with dark curls that constantly escaped her ponytail, and an infectious enthusiasm that made even the most mundane details seem important. Tristan had built his fortune in renewable energy, starting with a single solar panel company in his garage 10 years ago, and expanding into one of the most successful green energy corporations in the country. At 32, he had more money than he knew what to do with, but he had learned quickly that wealth attracted the wrong kind of attention. Most women he met were more interested in his bank account than in him as a person, which was why he had stopped mentioning his success to new people altogether. He walked up the path now, hands in the pockets of his jeans, a simple gray shirt stretched across his broad shoulders. He had taken the week off work to help with final wedding preparations, though honestly, Adelaide seemed to have everything under control. "Hey," he called out as he approached her. Adelaide looked up from her tablet, and Tristan watched as recognition flickered across her face. They had been introduced briefly at the engagement party 3 months ago, but there had been so many people there that he doubted she remembered him clearly. "Tristan, right? Isabelle's brother?" she asked, offering a friendly smile. "That is me." "And you are Adelaide, the miracle worker who somehow convinced my sister that she could not have peacocks at her wedding." Adelaide laughed, a genuine sound that made something in Tristan's chest tighten pleasantly. "Those peacocks would have been beautiful, but they also would have terrorized the guests. I have seen it happen before, and it is not pretty." "I believe you." He gestured toward the ceremony site. "Mind if I walk with you? I promised Isabelle I would check on how things are coming along." "Not at all. I was just about to do a final measurement of the aisle." They walked together through the vineyard, and Tristan found himself relaxing in her presence. Adelaide talked about the wedding with such passion, explaining how she had chosen this particular shade of lavender to complement the natural landscape, how the timing of the ceremony would give them perfect golden hour light for photographs, how the reception barn had been transformed with string lights and flowing fabric. "You really love what you do," Tristan observed. "I do," Adelaide admitted, her eyes lighting up. "There is something magical about bringing someone's dream day to life. All the stress is worth it when I see the bride's face light up as she walks down the aisle toward the person she loves." "How did you get into wedding planning?" Adelaide's expression softened with memory. "My aunt was a wedding coordinator, and I used to help her when I was in college. She taught me everything. When she retired, I decided to start my own business. It has been challenging, building a reputation from scratch, but events like this one really help. Your sister has been an amazing client. Isabelle mentioned she found you through a friend's recommendation." "Yes, I planned a small vineyard wedding last year and word spread. Now I am booked solid for the next 18 months. Tristan felt impressed. Building a successful business from the ground up was no small feat. He knew that better than anyone. Over the next few days, Tristan found excuses to visit the vineyard more often. He helped Adelaide carry boxes of decorations from her car, held the ladder while she directed the hanging of string lights, and listened as she coordinated with various vendors. Each conversation revealed more about her. She had a younger brother studying medicine. Her parents lived in Oregon. She loved old movies and hated roller coasters, and she had a rescue cat named Bentley, who apparently had no respect for personal space. Adelaide, for her part, found herself looking forward to Tristan's appearances. He was different from most of the groom's party members she typically dealt with. He actually cared about the details, asked thoughtful questions, and had a dry sense of humor that made the long days more enjoyable. He was also handsome in an understated way, with dark hair that fell across his forehead, strong features, and warm brown eyes that seemed to actually listen when she spoke. On Thursday evening, 2 days before the wedding, Adelaide was still at the vineyard at 8 o'clock, making sure every chair was positioned correctly in the barn. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Tristan carrying 2 takeout bags. "I figured you had not eaten," he said simply. "Chinese okay?" Adelaide's stomach growled in response, and she laughed. "You are a lifesaver. I completely lost track of time." They sat on the edge of the stage that had been set up for the band, their legs dangling as they ate lo mein and orange chicken straight from the containers. The barn was beautiful in the dim light, transformed from a rustic structure into something romantic and ethereal. "Can I ask you something?" Tristan said after a while. "Sure. Do you ever get tired of other people's love stories? Planning all these weddings, watching everyone else get their happy ending?" Adelaide considered the question carefully. "Sometimes," she admitted. "It can be lonely, being surrounded by romance but not having my own. I dated someone for 2 years, but we wanted different things. He was offered a job overseas, and I could not leave my business when it was just starting to take off. We tried long distance for a while, but it faded. That was 1.5 years ago. I am sorry. Do not be. It taught me what I actually want. I want someone who sees me as a partner, who supports my dreams the way I would support theirs. Someone who shows up." She glanced at him sideways. "What about you? I am surprised someone has not snatched you up already." Tristan's jaw tightened slightly. "Dating is complicated when you have money." Adelaide frowned in confusion. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "I should probably tell you something. I am not just Isabelle's brother who works in energy. I own Dane Renewable Solutions. We are one of the largest green energy companies in the country." Adelaide's eyes widened. She had heard of Dane Renewable Solutions. Everyone had. They had just signed a massive contract with the state of California. "You are that Tristan Dane?" "I am." "Oh." Adelaide processed this information, looking down at her half-eaten container of noodles. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I like you," Tristan said honestly. "And I did not want there to be dishonesty between us. I have dated women who were more interested in my portfolio than in me, and it gets exhausting. When I met you, you had no idea who I was, and it was refreshing. You treated me like a regular person, but I do not want you to think I was hiding this from you deliberately." Adelaide met his gaze, searching his face. His expression was open, vulnerable in a way that made her heart race. "I appreciate you telling me," she said softly. "For what it is worth, I still see you as the guy who helped me hang string lights and brought me Chinese food when I was too stubborn to stop working." The smile Tristan gave her could have lit up the entire vineyard. "Adelaide," he started, then paused. "When this wedding is over, would you like to have dinner with me? A real dinner, not takeout eaten on a stage." "I would really like that," Adelaide said, feeling warmth spread through her chest. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Adelaide was at the vineyard by 6 in the morning, coordinating the arrival of flowers, making sure the caterers had everything they needed, and handling a dozen small crises with practiced ease. By noon, the venue looked like something out of a fairy tale. Isabelle was radiating happiness as Adelaide helped her into her wedding dress, a flowing gown with delicate lace sleeves. "You have made everything so perfect," Isabelle said, tears gathering in her eyes. "Thank you, Adelaide." "Do not cry yet. You will ruin your makeup," Adelaide teased gently, but her own eyes were misty. As the guests began arriving, Adelaide slipped into her professional mode, ensuring everyone was seated correctly, that the musicians were ready, that the flower girl knew exactly when to walk. She caught sight of Tristan in his suit, standing at the altar as best man, and her breath hitched. He looked devastatingly handsome, and when his eyes found hers across the crowd, the smile he gave her was private and warm. The ceremony was beautiful. The groom, Marcus, cried when he saw Isabelle walking down the aisle. Their vows were personal and heartfelt, speaking of partnership and adventure and choosing each other every single day. Adelaide watched from the back, making sure everything ran smoothly, but part of her attention kept drifting to Tristan. During the reception, Adelaide was everywhere at once, ensuring the food was served on time, that the toasts went smoothly, that the music transitioned perfectly from dinner to dancing. Tristan's best man speech was funny and touching, full of stories about growing up with Isabelle and his genuine happiness at seeing her marry someone who clearly adored her. As the dancing began, Adelaide finally allowed herself to relax slightly. The hard part was over. Now guests just needed to enjoy themselves. Tristan found her standing near the edge of the barn, watching the celebration with satisfaction. "You did an incredible job," he said, appearing at her side. "It did turn out well, did it not?" Adelaide agreed, unable to keep the pride from her voice. "Dance with me," Tristan said, extending his hand. "I should not, I am working, and Adelaide, everything is perfect. Dance with me, please." She took his hand, letting him lead her onto the dance floor. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her close, and they swayed to the music. Adelaide was intensely aware of everywhere their bodies touched, the solid warmth of him, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. "I have been thinking about that dinner," Tristan murmured near her ear. "How about tomorrow night?" "That is pretty short notice," Adelaide teased. "I might have plans." "Do you?" "No," she admitted with a laugh. "Tomorrow sounds perfect." The song ended, but Tristan did not let her go immediately. His thumb traced a gentle pattern on her lower back, and Adelaide felt her heart hammering in her chest. "I should get back to work," she whispered, not moving. "You should," he agreed, also not moving. Finally, reluctantly, they stepped apart. Adelaide returned to her duties, but she felt different somehow, lighter, anticipating something wonderful. The next evening, Tristan picked her up at 7. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in the hills, the kind of place that did not advertise because locals kept it a cherished secret. They sat in a corner booth, and conversation flowed as easily as the wine. Adelaide learned that Tristan had started his company because he believed deeply in environmental responsibility, that he still worked 80-hour weeks despite having a full management team, that he had a scar on his hand from a childhood treehouse accident, and that his favorite movie was an old Western that his father had loved. Tristan discovered that Adelaide could not cook to save her life despite loving food, that she had once accidentally planned 2 weddings on the same day and pulled off both by sheer force of will, that she dreamed of eventually planning destination weddings internationally, and that she had a habit of talking to her cat like he could understand complex conversations. "I feel like I have known you for much longer than a week," Adelaide said as they shared a piece of tiramisu. "I know what you mean," Tristan agreed. "This feels different from other first dates. Different how? Like it matters more. Like you matter more." Adelaide felt her cheeks flush, but she held his gaze. "I feel that too." They dated throughout the rest of August and into September. Tristan took her to art galleries and hiking trails, to hole-in-the-wall diners and 5-star restaurants. Adelaide showed him the botanical gardens where she often found inspiration, took him to a vintage movie theater that showed old classics, and taught him how to identify flowers for wedding arrangements. What Adelaide loved most was how Tristan balanced his obvious success with genuine humility. He never flaunted his wealth, never treated service staff poorly, and seemed most content when they were doing simple things together like walking through farmers' markets or cooking breakfast in his apartment. Well, Tristan cooked. Adelaide supervised and provided commentary. "You are supposed to flip the pancake when bubbles form on top," she instructed from her perch on the kitchen counter. "I know how to make pancakes, Adelaide," Tristan said, but his tone was amused. "I am just saying the last one was a bit dark." "That was your breakfast preference, crispy, I believe you said." Adelaide laughed, watching him move around the kitchen with easy confidence. Bentley, her large orange cat, wound between Tristan's legs, having apparently decided this human was acceptable. They had been dating for 6 weeks, and Adelaide had never been happier. Tristan had seamlessly integrated into her life, showing up at her office with coffee when she was stressed about an upcoming event, helping her set up for a small garden wedding despite having important meetings to attend, and listening with genuine interest when she talked about her work. Adelaide's friends had initially been suspicious when she had told them she was dating a millionaire, worried she was getting involved with someone who would treat her as an accessory. But within 5 minutes of meeting Tristan, even her most skeptical friend had pulled her aside and whispered, "Okay, I get it. He looks at you like you hung the moon." In mid-October, Adelaide had a wedding at a coastal venue, and Tristan drove up with her for the weekend. After the ceremony ended and Adelaide had finished her duties, they walked along the beach as the sun set. "I have been thinking," Tristan said, taking her hand as they navigated the sand. "My company is opening a new office in Portland. I need to be there for a few weeks to oversee the launch." Adelaide's stomach dropped. "When do you leave?" "Next month. But I was hoping you might come visit. I know you are busy, but even a weekend would be great." Relief flooded through her. "I would love that. I actually have a potential client in Portland I have been meaning to meet with. Maybe I can schedule that during your trip." "Really?" Tristan stopped walking, turning to face her fully. The ocean breeze ruffled his hair and the setting sun painted everything gold. "Adelaide, I have to tell you something." Her heart started racing. "Okay. I am falling in love with you." "Actually, I think I have already fallen. I know it has only been 2 months, but I have never felt this way about anyone before. You are brilliant and passionate and funny, and being with you makes everything better. I do not want to scare you off by moving too fast, but I needed you to know." Adelaide felt tears prick her eyes, but they were happy tears. "You are not scaring me off. Tristan, I love you too. I have been trying not to rush things or seem too eager, but yes, I love you." Tristan cupped her face in his hands and kissed her with a tenderness that made her knees weak. The ocean crashed behind them, and Adelaide thought this moment, right here, was more romantic than any wedding she had ever planned. The Portland trip in November was wonderful. Adelaide stayed in Tristan's corporate housing, a sleek modern apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She met with her potential client, who ended up booking her for a spring wedding, and spent the evenings exploring Portland with Tristan. He took her to Powell's Books, where they got lost among the shelves for hours. They visited food trucks and coffee shops, hiked through Forest Park despite the drizzle, and spent lazy mornings in bed talking about everything and nothing. On their last night there, Tristan cooked her dinner in the apartment. Well, he attempted to cook. The smoke alarm may have gone off once. "I swear I know how to cook," he insisted as Adelaide opened windows to air out the kitchen. "You make me nervous. I make you nervous. You are the successful millionaire businessman. And you are the woman I am madly in love with, which is much more intimidating." They ended up ordering pizza and eating it on the living room floor, and Adelaide thought she had never been more content. December brought the holiday season, and with it, Adelaide's busiest time of year. She had 3 winter weddings booked, all with demanding clients and complex logistics. Tristan understood, never complaining when she had to cancel plans or arrived at his place exhausted at 10 at night. He showed up at her venues with thermoses of hot chocolate, helped her load equipment in and out of her car, and even helped wrangle a drunken uncle who was causing problems at one reception. Adelaide's assistant Jamie had declared Tristan a keeper, which was high praise considering Jamie trusted approximately nobody. On Christmas Eve, after Adelaide had finally finished her last wedding of the season, Tristan took her to his childhood home to meet his parents. Adelaide was nervous, but the Danes were warm and welcoming. His mother hugged her immediately, and his father showed her embarrassing photos of Tristan and Isabelle as children. "We are so happy to finally meet you," Mrs. Dane said over dinner. "Tristan talks about you constantly." "Adelaide planned this," Adelaide said that. "We were beginning to think he had invented you." "Mom," Tristan protested, but he was grinning. After dinner, Tristan walked Adelaide through the garden behind the house. Holiday lights twinkled in the trees and their breath fogged in the cold air. "I have a present for you," Tristan said, pulling a small box from his coat pocket. "Tristan, we agreed we were not doing presents this year. I did not get you anything, and just open it." Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant shaped like a grapevine leaf. Adelaide gasped. "It is from the Vineyard where we met," Tristan explained. "Where I watched you work for 2 weeks before I got up the courage to actually talk to you properly. Where I knew, even then, that you were going to change my life." "I love it," Adelaide whispered, touching the pendant reverently. "Help me put it on." Tristan fastened the necklace around her throat, his fingers gentle. Then he turned her around and kissed her softly. "Merry Christmas, Adelaide. Merry Christmas, Tristan." The new year brought changes. In February, Adelaide's business had grown enough that she needed to hire another full-time coordinator. The success of Isabelle's wedding had led to numerous referrals, and Adelaide found herself turning down clients because she was fully booked. Tristan's company was also expanding. He was traveling more for business, but he always made sure to be back for weekends. When he was gone, they video called every night, sometimes falling asleep with their phones propped on pillows. "I miss you," Adelaide said one night in March, curled up in her bed with Bentley purring beside her. "I miss you too," Tristan's voice came through the phone, "but I am home tomorrow and I want to take you somewhere special." "Where?" "It is a surprise." The surprise turned out to be the vineyard where they had met. Tristan drove them out on a Saturday afternoon, and Adelaide was confused when they pulled up to the property. "Why are we here?" she asked. "You will see." He led her to the barn where Isabelle's reception had been held. Inside, he had set up a private dinner. Candles flickered on a table set for two, and soft music played from hidden speakers. The string lights she had hung all those months ago still twinkled overhead. "Tristan, this is beautiful, but how did you?" "I called in a favor with the venue owner." "Adelaide, this is where everything started for us. This is where I realized I wanted to know everything about you, where I fell in love with watching you work, where I decided I was going to find a way to be part of your life." Adelaide felt tears gathering. "This is the most romantic thing anyone has ever done for me." They ate dinner slowly, reminiscing about that week before Isabelle's wedding. How Adelaide had been so focused on making everything perfect that she had barely noticed Tristan. How he had found excuses to visit daily. How terrified he had been to ask her out, worried she would reject him. After dinner, Tristan stood and extended his hand. "Dance with me again." This time there was no crowd of wedding guests, no professional obligations pulling Adelaide away. It was just the two of them, swaying in the middle of the barn, wrapped in each other. "I love you," Tristan murmured against her hair. "I love your passion and your kindness and the way you make everything around you beautiful. I love how you talk to your cat like he is a person, and how you can identify any flower at a glance. I love your determination and your laugh and the face you make when you are concentrating on a seeding chart." "I love you too," Adelaide whispered. "I love your integrity and how hard you work for what you believe in. I love that you brought me Chinese food when I was too stubborn to stop working. I love how you treat everyone with respect and how you make me feel like I can accomplish anything." Tristan pulled back slightly, and Adelaide was startled to see nervousness in his eyes. Then he was lowering himself to one knee, and her heart stopped. "Adelaide Norton, you have made every single day better since I met you. I cannot imagine my life without you in it. I do not want to imagine it." "Will you marry me?" He opened a small velvet box, revealing a stunning ring. The diamond caught the candlelight, but Adelaide barely saw it. She was looking at Tristan, at the man who had supported her dreams, who had shown up for her repeatedly, who loved her exactly as she was. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, absolutely yes." Tristan stood and slid the ring onto her finger, then kissed her deeply. Adelaide felt like she was floating, overwhelmed with joy. "I was so nervous," Tristan admitted, laughing slightly. "What if you had said no?" "I would never say no to you. You are everything I have ever wanted." They stayed at the vineyard until midnight, making plans and dreaming about their future. Tristan wanted a shorter engagement if she was okay with that. Adelaide found herself agreeing. Why wait when they both knew this was forever? They married in September, almost exactly 1 year after Isabelle's wedding. Adelaide planned her own wedding, of course, though she hired a coordinator to handle the day of logistics so she could actually enjoy being a bride. They chose a different vineyard, one up in Napa Valley, smaller and more intimate. Just 75 of their closest friends and family attended. Isabelle was Adelaide's maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Marcus, now Isabelle's husband, stood as one of Tristan's groomsmen. Adelaide wore a simple, elegant gown, her dark curls styled loosely, the grapevine leaf necklace at her throat. When she walked down the aisle and saw Tristan waiting for her, his eyes shining with tears, she felt her own throat tighten with emotion. Their vows were personal. Tristan promised to always bring her coffee when she was stressed about events, to support her business dreams no matter where they led, to dance with her in empty barns and crowded ballrooms. Adelaide promised to let him cook breakfast, even when she had suggestions about his technique, to be his partner in building a life full of meaning, to love him through the busy seasons and the quiet ones. The reception was perfect in the way that truly mattered. The food was delicious, the music was lively, and everyone they loved was there celebrating with them. Adelaide did not worry about logistics or timelines. She just danced with her husband, laughed with her friends, and felt grateful for every choice that had led her to this moment. On their wedding night, as they finally retreated to the honeymoon suite, Tristan swept Adelaide into his arms. "I love you, Mrs. Dane," he said. "I love you too. Although professionally I am keeping Norton." Adelaide Norton Dane sounds too complicated for business cards. "Whatever you want," Tristan said, kissing her. "As long as you are mine." They honeymooned in Italy for 2 weeks, eating their way through Tuscany and getting lost in Roman streets. Tristan had offered to rent a private villa, but Adelaide had insisted on staying in small, family-run hotels, wanting the authentic experience. They visited vineyards and took a cooking class and spent lazy afternoons in bed. When they returned home, reality set back in, but it was a good reality. They moved into a house together, a beautiful craftsman in the hills with enough space for Adelaide's home office and Tristan's need for a workshop where he could tinker with renewable energy prototypes. Bentley adjusted to Tristan's permanent presence by becoming even more demanding of attention. Tristan took it in stride, usually working on his laptop with the large orange cat sprawled across his lap. Adelaide's business continued to thrive. She hired 2 more coordinators and started getting requests for destination weddings. Tristan encouraged her to go for it, even helping her develop a business plan for expansion. For his part, Tristan had started delegating more at work, determined not to let his company consume all his time. He wanted to be present in his marriage, to build a life with Adelaide that was about more than just their careers. On their first anniversary, they returned to the vineyard where they had met. They walked through the grapevines hand in hand, remembering how it had all started. "Do you ever think about how easily we could have missed each other?" Adelaide mused. "If Isabelle had chosen a different wedding planner, if you had been too busy with work to visit during preparations." "I do not think we would have missed each other," Tristan said confidently. "I think somehow we would have found our way to each other. We were meant to be." "That is very romantic for someone who deals in solar panels and wind turbines. You bring out my romantic side." In November, Adelaide found out she was pregnant. She had suspected for a few weeks, but had waited to take a test until she was sure. When the positive result appeared, she sat in the bathroom for 10 minutes, overwhelmed with joy and terror. She told Tristan that evening, simply handing him the test as he walked in the door from work. He stared at it, then at her, then let out a whoop of excitement and lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. "We are having a baby," he said, wonder in his voice. "Adelaide, we are having a baby." "Are you happy?" she asked, even though his reaction made the answer obvious. "I am thrilled." "Terrified but thrilled. Are you?" "Same. I have no idea how I am going to manage weddings while pregnant, but we will figure it out." They did figure it out. Adelaide coordinated events through her second trimester, then transitioned most hands-on work to her team during her third. Tristan was ridiculously attentive, constantly worried about her overdoing it. Their daughter was born in early July, a healthy 8-pound baby with Tristan's dark hair and Adelaide's nose. They named her Lily, and she was perfect. Tristan cried when he held her for the first time. Adelaide had never seen him so emotional, so utterly undone by love. He looked at their daughter with such awe, such tenderness, that Adelaide fell in love with him all over again. Being parents was harder than either of them had anticipated. The sleepless nights, the constant worry, the way their entire world had shifted to revolve around this tiny person. But it was also more rewarding than anything Adelaide had ever experienced. She still planned weddings, though fewer of them now. She was more selective about her clients, and she had promoted Jamie to senior coordinator. The business ran smoothly even when Adelaide was home with Lily. Tristan adjusted his schedule to be home more. He worked from his home office several days a week, and Adelaide would often find him in his workshop with Lily strapped to his chest in a carrier, talking to her about photovoltaic cells while she gurgled contentedly. On Lily's first birthday, they had a party in their backyard. Isabelle and Marcus were there with their new baby, a son they had named Thomas. Adelaide's parents had flown in from Oregon. Tristan's parents arrived with enough presents to fill a small store. As Adelaide watched Tristan help Lily smash her cake, getting frosting everywhere, she reflected on how much her life had changed. 2 years ago, she had been alone, focused entirely on building her business, convinced that love would come eventually but not particularly looking for it. Then she had planned a Vineyard wedding, and a quiet man who brought her Chinese food had turned her entire world upside down in the best possible way. "What are you thinking about?" Isabelle asked, appearing at Adelaide's side with Thomas on her hip. "Just how grateful I am. Your brother is the best thing that ever happened to me. He would say the same about you. He is insufferable, actually. He brings you up in every conversation." Adelaide said this. Adelaide thinks that. It is adorable and annoying in equal measure. Adelaide laughed. "Tell me again how we had no idea he was a millionaire. I still cannot believe that. You really did not recognize his name." "I am not particularly involved in the business world. I knew Dane Renewable Solutions, but I never connected it to your family. And he was just so normal, you know. He helped me carry boxes and ate takeout sitting on a stage. That is because you saw him for who he really is, not what he has accomplished. That is why he loves you so much." Later that night, after all the guests had left and Lily was asleep in her crib, Adelaide and Tristan sat on their back porch. The summer air was warm and crickets chirped in the darkness. "Thank you," Adelaide said softly. "For what? For everything. For seeing me. For supporting my dreams. For being an amazing husband and father. For bringing me Chinese food that night at the Vineyard." Tristan laughed, pulling her closer against his side. "Best takeout decision I ever made. I am serious. You changed my life, Tristan. You made me happier than I ever thought possible. You did the same for me. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Building the company, making money, but not really living. You taught me what it means to actually be present in my own life, to care about more than just the next business deal or expansion plan." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Adelaide thought about all the weddings she had planned over the years. All the love stories she had helped bring to life. She had always been on the outside, orchestrating other people's happy endings. But now she had her own. A love story that had started at a Vineyard wedding, with a man who had been worth more than she had known but whose real value had nothing to do with money. His value was in how he showed up, how he loved, how he had made her believe in happily ever after, not just for her clients, but for herself. "I love you," she said, turning to kiss him softly. "I love you too. Always." And as they sat together under the stars, with their daughter sleeping peacefully inside and years of love and life stretching ahead of them, Adelaide knew that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Not planning someone else's wedding, but living her own beautiful story. The end might have felt far from that moment when she had stood in a vineyard with a tablet and a schedule, and no idea that her life was about to change. But looking back, every step had led her exactly where she needed to go. To love, to family, to a man who had made her his, not through wealth or grand gestures, but through quiet consistency and genuine devotion. That was the real fairy tale, Adelaide thought. Not the weddings she planned with their perfect details and magical moments, but the everyday choice to love someone and be loved in return. The ordinary magic of building a life together, one day at a time. She had planned his sister's vineyard wedding, unaware the best man would become her husband, her partner, the father of her child, and the love of her life. And she would not change a single moment of it,